Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are starting here one more webinar from the ASTRAIOS project. So a quick introduction about what is the project. First, I'm Dr. Ryan Mareto. I'm assistant professor here at the Earth Observation Science Department, and I will host our guest here that I'll introduce in a bit. So the ASTRAIOS project is an EU-funded project that is working on identifying the existing space-related education and training across Europe, project the future demands for space skills from the European space industry, and identify actions to align and improve the career pathways into the sector. The project started in January 2023 and spans across 3 years, and we are now in the final year of the project, in which we are producing material to fill in these gaps. This webinar is part of the ASTRAIOS webinar series and will help the project to reach this goal of improving the existing training materials and developing new ones to fill the gap between the supply and the demand for the space education and training courses. In today's webinar, we will discuss promoting disasters preparedness and resilience by co-developing stakeholder support tools for managing the systematic risk of compounding disasters and the role of Earth observation on that. Thank you very much to our guest, Dr. Funda Atun. I'm looking sideways because she's here on my side in the same room. Dr. Funda is an associate professor at the Department of Urban and Regional Planning and Geoinformation Management at the University of Twente, and in the Faculty of Geoinformation Science and Earth Observation, ITC. So I'll give the floor now to Funda. Thank you very much again for accepting our invitation, and let's learn a little bit about this exciting topic. The floor is yours, Funda.
Thank you so much, Hayan, and thanks for the invitation. It's a great pleasure being here. So, we are in the same faculty with my colleagues, and it's nice to be hosted also by their European Union-funded project. And I will introduce you today PARATUS project, and I'm looking at the attendees. I see some familiar faces, but most of them I'm not familiar with. That's why, while preparing the presentation, I tried to include also a little bit more information about the project and also the disaster aspects, because I know that it's not, so it is new, this topic, to some of you. And PARATUS project, it is coordinated by me and Kees van Westen. And so when we started developing the proposal of the PARATUS project, and it was just right after the 2021 European floods. Now we had more serious events, like when we look at this year. But this flood event was a sign that Europe is not flood-proof. And although they are technically very advanced, like we are very advanced technically, and we can forecast the flood, but there are several other gaps that resulted in this situation. And several countries were affected by these floods. So the gaps, we can say, it is in the preparedness and emergency response, cross-border cooperation, and not having a strong debate on the early warning system, and having low awareness on the risks and also behavior of the population. And then we developed this proposal for to achieve a platform at the end, tools that can help the decision makers to test different disaster risk reduction and mitigation measures, not to have a situation like the 2021 European floods again. And when we look at the consortium, so PARATUS is a consortium of 18 different organizations in 11 different countries. And it's a €5 million project. And we have some some focuses in the project. Like the one in the middle, you see it's our outcome. So we would like to achieve an open and online user-centered platform for systemic risk assessment. And this platform, the tools in this platform, they are co-designed with various stakeholders, and we address physical, socio-economic, and environmental aspects. And we do this by looking back, looking ahead, and also adapting to the changes. I will explain what do I mean by these things now. And as I said, this is about co-designing. So we are not doing this as researchers in isolation. So we are working with 4 different case study areas. And we have one megacity. We have one medium-sized European city, it's Bucharest, and the megacity is Istanbul. And we have the Brenner corridor on the Alps, it's between Italy and Austria, and we have Caribbean islands. As you see here, we have different geographical contexts. So this also helps us to see how the tools should be adapted, changing to the geographical context. And at the end, like I can mention, that we would like to achieve, we achieved most of them already, because we are about to finish our 3rd year and we have 1 year left. And so the 4 main components of PARATUS are co-design of multi-hazard impact chains, and also definition of the quantifiable components, which components can be quantifiable and how can we quantify them. And the second one is dynamic modeling of exposure hazard vulnerability data tailored to the specific user. I'll explain in the further slides why it is necessary. And co-development of future scenarios based on the changes in causes. It can be climate change or changes in the risk drivers. And co-development of planning alternatives and selection of optimal risk reduction options. And when you look at the big picture, this is we would like to achieve 12 results. We have achieved most of them, actually. And so we have 2 types of results. 8 of them are for research and innovation, and 4 of them for action and impact-oriented objectives. So the first block that we almost finish it. So we have 1 deliverable left that will be submitted this end of September, and it is about Earth observation, actually. How Earth observation can help us also to learn from the historical data and can help us for the dynamic modeling. And so we are looking at the back to the past to understand what kind of interactions might happen during the disasters, like between different components. And at the end, we provide guidelines for historical disaster databases, and we co-develop impact chains, and this way we also improve historical data sets. But here the question is, would future events echo the past ones in highly dynamic environments? So the technology is changing, the socio-demographic situation is changing, the number of population, the number of houses, even the economy, everything is changing. We are in a highly dynamic environment. And when we look at the past, and what happened in the past will not be the same in the future, because we will be living in a totally different environment. So how can we use also this past, the information that comes from past events, and how can we consider also this dynamic situation of the environment to be able to understand the impact of the future events? So this is a challenge. Therefore, we need to develop a methodology. First, we need to understand and analyze these dynamic conditions, but also we need to make better predictions for the future. This requires also understanding the trends. And so when we look at the post-disaster need assessment, and we see that it looks at the physical damage, economic loss, and recovery cost. And looking at what happened in the past, these costs, it provides an estimation of impacts and losses of the future events. But as I said, so as the future is dynamically changing, it doesn't help us totally. So what we do in this project, we developed a forensic analysis methodology, and we use remote sensing monitoring, and we are improving the disaster databases. So this way, we collect the information from the past events to be able to understand how things will be in the future. Actually, this brings me to the next group of, I don't want to call it work package, but group of tasks, activities, let's say. So now we are at the stage of designing the scenarios. And we co-design these scenarios with our case study, with our stakeholders in our case study areas. So it is quite challenging, you can understand. So how can you quantify uncertainty? And also co-development, it brings another challenge, because we go to these locations, we organize workshops, and we co-design these scenarios together with our stakeholders. And then, this is one thing. And another thing, how can we adapt to these changes? So on one hand, we analyze the existing risk mitigation measures in our application case study areas. And then we co-developed various serious games, so that with these serious games, we can also discuss the planning alternatives and optimal risk reduction options with our stakeholders, and also the other stakeholders who are interested in it, to decide the best risk reduction option in their area. And we also like to look at the ahead and to understand the today's future. We assess multi-hazard and multi-sector impact chains. So we first prepared, co-designed them in Work Package 1, and now we are assessing them, and we co-developed the scenarios based on the assessment of these impact chains. And here the challenges, for instance, adapting to changes, the main challenges. The information that is provided to the stakeholders, let's say the climate information, it is often abstract, and it doesn't include or respond to the key stakeholders' perspectives, and it doesn't connect the complexity of the decision-making processes. And many decision support tools that the stakeholders use, they focus on a short-term time frame, and they exclude the consideration of long-term scenarios. So these are the main challenges that we are dealing, and then we consider them while we are preparing our games. And therefore we kind of propose some solutions. And first we assess the existing approaches, and then we already produced adaptation and mitigation options together with our stakeholders. And we also organize stress testing workshops. And now we are at the stage of producing climate risk narratives and augmented reality. We also already finalized our social simulations, our games. And we are using these games in different locations to increase the awareness of the different expert stakeholders, but also the games also help them to make the right decision, because there are several options for this disaster risk reduction, and with the help of the games they can test which option is the best for them. And so this is this is our final outcome, user-centered risk assessment and reduction service. And when we look at existing tools, existing services, we see that there is no publicly available tool for analyzing multi-hazard risk and also this complex impact chains. There are tools for hazard risk, there are tools for flood hazards, earthquake, landslide, but when it comes to the multi-hazard, there is no publicly available tool that can be used by various people. So, And then we are, at the moment, we are working on various tools. I'll show you some examples later. And we also have some action impact objectives. So I showed you some research objectives, but we also have impact objectives. So we would like to improve this technical policy measures and implementation of recommendation actions. And for this, we have already published, together with other projects, policy papers. And we are working together with previous projects and current projects, and then we created like a hub. I will show you. So we are at the moment, we are building a community of users that includes practitioners, first and second responders, technical staff, scientists, but also the other project consortium. So ASTRAIOS is also welcome to join us. I'll show you our hub. And another objective was achieving a less fragmented technological landscape. And for this, like we contribute to the standardization and recommendation through SAN workshop agreement. We are also at the stage of developing it at the moment. So we are working on standardization on multi-hazard vulnerability and risk assessment in a SAN workshop agreement. And this is the hub. So whatever we produce in our project, like the impact chains, the tools, multi-hazard risk assessment tools, and case study results, they are all in this hub. And the other thing is, when we started this project, we realized that we are not alone working on this aspect, like multi-hazard risk assessment. And then we came together with various projects. And now we are, last time I counted 27 projects. So we are working together in this hub. And I don't know, I didn't count it yesterday. It's increasing every day. And so here, like this is also a source for sustainability, because this helps us to make the result of the project sustainable, and not only our project, but also the other projects. And because this hub is funded by CMind platform. And so here, like this was actually a result of a previous project. And then we continue, different projects continue using this platform. And I can show you later on, if I have time, I can go to the hub, but now I don't want to leave the presentation. So I'll show you an example of multi-hazard risk framework, because I know some of you are not familiar with this terminology. So hazard is like when an earthquake floods, like you can consider it just a hazard. But so the elements that are prone to a flood and earthquake, they are exposed, so they are the exposure. And so then we look at the vulnerability of these elements. So, and the vulnerability can be physical, social, economic, environmental. And so we have different indicators to assess the vulnerability and make the vulnerability curves. And after you have the vulnerability of the exposed elements to a specific hazard, then you can decide on the risk reduction measures. But the challenge here is, when a hazard happens, it doesn't happen alone. For instance, an earthquake occurs and then it triggers a landslide, it triggers fire or tsunami or even flood. And so therefore, like, we need to understand what are the multi-hazards. And vulnerability of a building changes from one hazard type to another hazard type. And how the hazard affects the entire system also, it is also different. Some hazards, like more local, some of them, their impact is larger, and some of them slow onset, some of them happen suddenly. So every hazard is different, and the impact of every hazard is different. And when they happen also together, like by triggering each other, then of course the situation changes. And therefore, this is the challenge. And on the one hand, the risk drivers, they are dynamic, they are changing. So, and when we look at the tools like the tool landscape for multi-hazard risk, we see that it's not available and very complex, data intensive. Some of them are only country or region specific. Some of them require specific software and data, and maybe the software not available or maintained, and no multi-hazard interactions, and they don't provide loss and risk information, and there are no risk reduction alternatives, and they don't include also the scenarios. So these are the challenges that we observed when we look at the existing tools landscape for multi-hazard risk. And I mentioned to you the impact chain. So this was our starting point. It might look very complicated, so some colleagues call it spaghetti monsters, but we also have a very simplified version of these things. And in our hub, if you go to our DRS Disaster Risk Stakeholder Hub, you can also create your own impact chain. So here you put the hazard, for instance, if we look at here, the hurricane triggers strong wind, heavy rain, and storm surge. And then these things have like impact on, also they might also create landslides, for instance. And then you see that the roads might be blocked, flooded, power plant shutdown. So these are the impacts of these hazards. And then you can also link it to the exposed elements and vulnerability. And the last stage is the adaptation options. So what can you do to reduce these impacts in case such a hazard occurs again? And this is a tool that my colleagues are working on it, they are developing. And so this tool risk changes, so it helps you to analyze the exposed elements that are prone to the hazard. It helps you to analyze the potential loss and also the risk. And at the end, you can use this information to make a spatial decision. So this is the platform, like the risk changes tool. This is the link you can go, and so you can analyze the multi-hazard. You can include multiple assets. It's linked to the vulnerability databases. Multiple users can use it, and you can also compare the risks. This is some information about the system architecture, and it's completely open source, and all the codes and computation techniques are freely available and with Creative Commons license. So please feel free to go and to test it. Later on, you can always send me, if you have questions, you can just drop me an email. If you are interested, I can also put you in direct contact with the colleagues who are developing this tool. So you can register, upload the data, and start using the tool. And there's also the advanced user option. So this is more linked to the SDSS Python library, and you can also customize the computation as you require. And as I say, it's like you can make an exposure analysis, loss analysis, risk analysis, but we are still developing it. So I think in 1 year we will be able to finalize. And so this way you can also, like different stakeholders, like government departments or physical planning departments, emergency management organizations can use this tool for different purposes. And then to decide on which option is the best to reduce the existing risk. So this is a very interdisciplinary aspect, the disaster study. So as you see here, like vulnerability assessment, physical, social, it requires different disciplines. And risk analysis, like the economic analysis of the risk. So this is also another aspect. And hazards modeling, you need different expertise. So we all work together, like different expertise, we work together in the preparation of this tool. So you can make a hazard analysis. So this means that like the specific information about hazards, like if it is an earthquake, you look at the epicenter, the magnitude of the earthquake. When it is the exposure, it is about the elements at risk. So the elements that are prone to that specific hazard. It can be a building, it can be a road network. And then we have the vulnerability assessment. So to make the vulnerability assessment, we look at the exposed elements and the hazard typology. And depending on the hazard typology and the exposed element, we have different indicators to assess the vulnerability. And then when everything comes together, then you have the risk analysis. And here you see some examples. And so the risk, the red, this is the road network, and you see the like the red ones are the high risk, and yellow moderate, and green the low risk. So I see a question in the chat. Shall I?
No, we can ask the questions in the end.
Okay. So there are YouTube videos. So if you want to learn more about these different aspects, I don't want to make it like a lecture, so you can also have a look and you can ask me later on. And the workflow of this tool is, of course, first you provide the data, and then you make the exposure analysis. So you need to include information of physical exposure, like land use, and population exposure, like some demographic data, number of population. And then you make a loss analysis, financial and societal, and then the risk analysis, the annual average financial risk or annual average risk. And then you can make a cost-benefit analysis. So by integrating also some decisions, you can also see how the risk is how the risk changes, depends on different decisions, so that you can also make which mitigation measure is the best to reduce the risk. So, like, for instance, for hazards, you need different kind of data. If it is a flood hazard, then you need flood intensity maps, debris flow intensity maps. You can also include landslide spatial probability maps. And when it comes to the elements at risk, building footprints, attributes, and land parcels you need. And we have another tool, the fast flood modeler. So our colleagues also developed fast flood tool. Here you can assess with the help of fast flood. You can look at the independent events, but you can also look at the compounding events, because you can also integrate the information from the climate change models, and then you can also see how the pattern is changing based on the climate change. So here these are some videos. So you select a location and resolution, and then download the data. And here you can select different options, and you simulate the flood event based on these options. So you can decide on the rainfall, infiltration, channels, and yeah, you can calibrate it. And you can also make advanced analysis. So we are also now integrating the land use data, the exposure data, to the flood hazard, past flood. And you can use global elevation, but also you can load your custom data. So here we are using Sentinel-2, earth cover 10 meter. And you can also arrange the elevation. You can add the land use map. So you see like which roads might be flooded based on the information that you provided. So I will continue. You can also, like here, we are sketching a mitigation measure, a leave, and then you can sketch it and then simulate it again and see how it changes the situation. And then you can decide the best location of a leave. Okay, I will continue. Oops. And these are the hazard maps that you can develop with the support of risk changes tools. And these are so technical, so I'm not going to mention them. And you can link it to the existing data. So land parcels, for instance, administrative units. And at the end, you can decide which risk reduction alternatives is the best to reduce the existing risk. And there are different alternatives for risk reduction. It can be an engineering solution, it might be ecological solution or relocation. Okay, so these are the things that I would like to show. May I go to the website?
Yeah, please. Feel free to show
Yeah.
Everything you need.
So the slides are, I finished my slides. I would like to show you our disaster risk stakeholder hub. Just 5 minutes, then we can have the discussion. Okay. Okay, now we see the disaster risk stakeholder hub. You can join if you want to. You can request to join. And I'll just show you briefly. We are still developing it further because this is a co-development, and every workshop we organize, we sit together with the stakeholders and discuss with them how to improve this hub further. So we have different stakeholder groups. Sorry, my computer. It's first time I'm using my computer, so I'm still getting used to it. It arrived yesterday. So here we have different stakeholder groups. So it can be first responder, second responder, and the scientist and consultant. So what most of the people, they don't know what is the difference between first and second responder. So the first responder, it is the person who is specialized, trained to first to arrive. Like they are like when there's a fire, when there's a water, they are there. And the second responders, they are the ones who support the first responders. And when everything is under control and safe, they arrive to the scene. The second responders arrive to the scene to support them. So they are involved in preparing, managing, and returning the services and cleaning up the sites, etc. They are not directly involved with the risk. And scientists, that's us. Okay, and for instance, we go to the hub resources, contributing projects. Here you see, so we are not alone. It's these are all the EU-funded projects that collaborate with us for the hub, and we include all their outcomes in this hub. And it's many, so, and when you got, we have two groups of tools. We have information tools and we have simulation tools. So on one hand, if you just want to have some information, you can go to the information part, and there is the terminology, disaster databases, impact chains, hazard data, exposure data, vulnerability, so, and best practices. For instance, best practices we collect from different case studies and different projects. And for instance, the impact chains wiki, when you go here, you see various reports of the impact chains of in different case studies here. And if you want to develop your impact chain, you can go to the impact chain generator and you can design your impact chain. So this links you to Kumu. Kumu is a free service. So you get an account and then you can start developing your impact chain. So when we come to the simulation, these are the tools that we are developing in the project. So, but also we include tools from other projects. So we have this impact chain generator, we have hazard assessment tools, risk assessment tools, risk reduction and planning tools, and serious games. For instance, there are several serious games that every project, they included their serious games here. If you also have in your project, we will be happy to have them here if you think it is relevant. And for instance, risk assessment tools, if you go to the risk assessment tools, you see like these ones are not developed by us, but risk changes, it is a tool that we are developing. And if we go to the hazard assessment tools, here also you will see the fast flood. It's a tool that we are developing, and but we also included other hazard assessment tools that are like a part of the tool landscape. So that's all from my side, and thank you so much. Are there questions?
So thank you very much, Funda, again. We have some questions here in the chat, and I'll post them so we can have a bit of a discussion on that. The first one is, does the developed methodology, just one comment, I usually don't mention the names of the people that asked the questions just because of the privacy issues, the privacy agreements that you all signed. So, and because this is recorded and the video will be available in our YouTube channel. So the first question is, does the developed methodology generally reflect the different study areas, or is it specific to one study area?
That's a very good question. Thank you so much. Like every year, we have application case study workshops in every case study area, and they are aligned with the with our tasks, like with our deliverables. So we started by looking at the past, like the impact chains forensic analysis. And then we started developing the methodologies. And but we realized that the situation, the local characteristics, and also the stakeholder dynamics, it's different in every case study area. So on one hand, we have islands, it's totally different. On the other hand, like in Bucharest, we have, for instance, Ministry of Interior. So it is different than our stakeholder in the Alps, which is the Aspinact organization who is responsible for the road network. So the dynamics are different. Also, their requests are different. So first we develop a general methodology, and then together with our case study coordinators, we see how do we need to adapt this methodology depending on the local conditions. Yeah, they are not exactly the same, but they are harmonized. You see that they are linked, they are from the same source, but we adapt it to the situation in the case study area.
Thanks, Funda. So next one is, we know that AI has been shown as a quite powerful tool for analyzing all kinds of data, and it's not so different with Earth observation data. So have you explored, because I saw that many of your tools, they are based on Earth observation data. Mm-hmm. And have you explored the potentials of AI to estimate the risk of hazards or to estimate potential locations and things like that?
We have AI integrated to our tools and also integrated to our hub, but it's not at the level that can estimate the risk of hazard, but now we are writing another proposal on that because it requires a totally different setting. And now we are working on a proposal that AI is exactly integrated to estimate the risk of hazard, because also the outcomes that we achieved in this project that can help us. Because we have quite an understanding about the previous disasters, so that information can help us to achieve it. It is we are working on that direction, but not there yet.
Thanks. Yeah, another question here that is related to the how do you make this effective in making changes? So how can you make this to effectively use it in the public policies, and are governments and decision makers already using that, and how do you tackle that to increase the impact and increase the effectiveness in the use of that in public policies and prevention?
So as I mentioned, on one hand, we have this digital tools, but on the other hand, we have also the games. And based on all the methodologies that we developed in the PARATUS, we also developed a game. And with this game, we go to different public governmental organizations. So, for instance, like we ask them, okay, what are the actions that you need to take in the future so that you decide how, where, the location, etc., etc. And then we adapt the game to their needs. And playing this game, they can effectively use the outcome in the public policies. We also contribute to the policy documents with our findings. And we also saw that, especially at the EU level, they are really like taking it serious, and they are supporting us, like they are learning from the results. They are, so I can say that yes, governments and decision makers, they are using it, but it is also our responsibility to make what we develop or design fits to their mostly how like daily routine. Like it should be something that they can use, and it should be something that they can test their decisions. So the game that we developed, it's very easy to adapt it to the changing purposes. And for instance, I played it with in the one of the events in the European Commission with DG ECO and the REA colleagues, and they found it very useful, to like, and it is something that really can help the decision makers to make the right decision. So yes. And also the tools, the digital tools that we are developing, we are always in the workshops, always using the tools together with the decision makers and collecting more information. And then we come back and we adapt the tools according to their needs.
And that's very interesting. Thanks. And also in that, continuing that line, these tools, can they be extended to meet the different needs of different users if needed, or
yes,
how is that done?
Yeah, this was actually our starting point, because the users are different, and their resources, their understanding, their needs, their actions, they're all different. And how can we meet these needs of different needs of the users? That's how we started the project, and that's why we selected different stakeholders, and that's why we selected different geographical locations to understand these differences, and how can we really how can we really address those different needs of stakeholders.
And that's great. And in that sense, so because you probably each of the stakeholders, they have different opinions and different needs, and then how do you handle, because if you also tackle all of them, the tool may become a bit too complex. But if you also need in the end to tackle their needs, how do you manage to keep the tool simple, to keep the game simple, and still attend to the opinions and needs of different stakeholders?
Like, for instance, in the tools, like we incorporating the data that can answer the needs of different stakeholders. And for the games, so it's quite adjustable. And then depending on what they want to achieve, we can easily adjust the games. And they are very simple, and this helps. And it is so difficult to achieve simplicity, you all know. So keeping it simple is already challenging, and we manage, and then it works. So
That's interesting. So I think one last question to finalize, that is about actually two more, about the project hub. Does it have an end date defined, or how do you plan the sustainability of that hub? Do you have expected to receive continuous funding, or how do you plan this sustainability to keep that working and running after the end of the project?
So the hub is hosted by CMind platform, and the platform has continuous funding. Every project from different locations, and because that CMind platform actually it is a result of another project. I also had a role in that project. It was the Driver Plus project, and then it is the outcome of that project. And now, as Paratus, we decided to have our hub in that platform. So when Paratus finishes, the hub will continue. So there is a continuous funding for the hub. And that's why it is a key for the sustainability. And that's why also we decided not to do this alone, and we involved also other projects.
That's great. And the last one is in that sense, how many stakeholders do you have already involved with the projects? And stakeholders, I mean, decision makers and people that can really apply these changes and make that happen.
In the project, as the internal project partners, we have one stakeholder per case study area, together with a research institution in the case study area. But in our workshops, I don't have the number in front of me, but it is hundreds. Like sometimes in one workshop we have 100 stakeholders. So they are very big workshops, and I don't know the exact number. I didn't. It is something I need to count because we have the review report coming.
No, that's not a problem. It's great to know that it's being used a lot, and that has been generating really an impact on preventing disasters and preventing to reduce the impact of those disasters. So Funda, thank you very much again for contributing to our webinar series.
Thanks for joining. Thanks for the invitation. And as I said, I try to explain everything a little bit. And if you have questions on some specific aspect, reach me out. So
that's great. Thanks a lot. I will share here my screen just to share some final information about the project. So again, many thanks to Funda for the brilliant presentation. Congratulations for the brilliant work. It's very interesting. And so for those who want more information about our project, we have here the QR code for our website, the LinkedIn where we post the news and everything. We are also present on the X, that was before Twitter. And also we have our YouTube channel where besides the webinars, we have a lot more material and a lot of interesting information. So please feel free to reach on us whenever you need. And we keep on posted through these platforms on the next webinars and also on all the material that we have produced. So thank you very much, everyone. And we come now to the end of one more ASTRAIOS webinar series. Thanks a lot, and see you in the next webinar.